Okay. Well, having been doing this now for 25 years, oh boy, talk about mistakes. I can write you a list of 100 mistakes, but I'm just going to focus on a few common ones that I start to see. Number one is not discovering your brand before building your brand. Now, what I mean by that, not discovering your brand before building your brand. What do I mean by that? Now, I've gone in, I've seen people go, all right, let me just go and build a brand. All right, I want to be this. I want to be the greatest at this. But then they realize that they're not succeeding. And when they come to me and they ask me why, I go, well, have you even discovered your brand? What I mean by discover your brand, have you spoken to your target audience? Have you stepped back and looked at what are your strengths and what are you good at? Have you looked at how you are placed within your competition? What is your competition selling? What is the opportunity for you to be better than them? So the discovery process is extremely crucial when you start building your brand. So before you go and build your brand and look at discovering a brand. So that's the first, I think, the problem that I see. The second problem where I see is you not defining what your brand stands for. So again, it's kind of related because if you don't discover, you won't know how to define your brand. But the ability to have a very clear definition of who you are and what your brand represents is key, right? What is your purpose? What are your values? How are you positioned in the market? How are you differentiated from everyone else? That's key. Having that clarity is super important. I was working with a client just last week and he had no idea how he was differentiated. And when I spoke to him, we were able to then pinpoint that this person, for example, this client of mine, he had 40 years of experience. And in fact, you know what? He had invented his own process on how he dealt with his clients. So what do? We took his 30 years or his 40 years of experience, we took the process that he invented and we used that as differentiation proof points for him to help him stand out in a already cluttered marketplace. So that's the second thing. The third thing is not knowing your target audience. If you have unlimited resources, if you've got lots of money and you've got lots of versions of yourself that can go out there and sell your brand, great, then of course, target everyone. But that's in reality, that's not true, isn't it? You don't have unlimited resources. You have limited resources, which means that you need to be very specific and targeted. When you are specific and when you have a targeted audience in mind, your branding, your resources can be used extremely effectively when you go out there and you build your brand by knowing exactly the target audience. But it goes just beyond that, right? Because when you are able to target audience, you are able to understand what are their pain points, what are their needs, and then you take your solutions and you are now able to craft messages that solve those clients' pain points or their problems and which meets their expectations. You see? This is key. This is key from a brand perspective. The next thing is this misconception. Okay, this was just 2 months ago, and I met a personal brand that wanted to hire me for their coaching services, and I was having a look at the brand, and after looking at the brand, I realized that he had basically just copied someone else, wholesale. So his current brand was a copy of someone else that he liked, and he copied every single thing from the tagline, the messaging, the visuals. It was like a copy, like a mini-me of this person. And I was like, you can't do this. And he goes, but that brand is doing well. I go, that brand is doing well because it suits that brand, but not you. You gotta be you. Now, it doesn't mean you cannot look at best practices. And I always encourage the personal brands I coach, look at best practices, look at what works, and then take what the best practices, use them, but then make sure that it's uniquely you that is within that. So one of the things that I said to this person is I was like, okay, wait, stop it. Drop all of these things, but tell me what you like. And he pointed out like this. Okay, so let's take some of these best practices. Now, let's discover you. And when we discovered you, I helped him create a brand that was uniquely him. Now, this is key. You want to be authentically you. Your brand needs to reflect that. Feel free to look at best practices, but it all boils down to you. Because look what, if you copy someone else, someone's going to look at you and go, hey, doesn't that remind me of that person? And you're going to lose your credibility on the spot. The next thing I want you to think about is your brand roadmap. Now, many times I've gone into personal brands and they've got a great dream. They know who they are. And I go, well, what's next? And they go, I don't know. So if you got a dream, for the dream to happen, you got to have a plan. So that's where personal brands need to have a very clear brand roadmap, very clear brand action plan, knowing what their goals are and what the strategies that they need to take to get to where they want to go. And the plan should be both short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So please, if you're a personal brand, you got to have a plan.